every show of an artist that I know of starts with an initial little spark in your head. There's this sort of a smell that maybe this would be a good trail to go down. Ooh, I've got an idea. It's just a tiny little thing. And then you explore that idea. This idea started because, as my friend Walt Learman would say, I decided to steal from myself. And I went back to my early geometric work, which was still recognizable as trees. I did some geometric trees. And I returned to those. I had a show at Traver in the early 80s. We did a little poster of this geometric tree, and I started by returning to that. In the early years, I did a very orange giant screen back when I was still doing huge things with same color, it looked like a telephone pole with more slabs. So this was like the first tree that I did after that, and I returned to some of those geometric trees. And once you're there, you spin off and you say, come on, get loose, and you do a 60s tree, and they're a little more bubblier than rectangular. I used to do nothing but rectangular art, and one time somebody came into my studio and said, it must be pretty hard to cut a curve. Well, okay, that way about it. Let's see here. All right, that's about that. There's two types of windows in this show. There's the type where I told the glass what to do. This would be an example of that. I had a bit of a design. I cut the glass. Okay, here's what you're gonna do. That tree over there, same thing. All right, I'm gonna do a leaning tree out on the peninsula where we have a cabin. There's a lot of trees that lean over. And they feel so much like a relationship. There's a black and white one in there where the tree's leaning in, lean in against, and this one's sort of leaning away. Anyway, I tell the glass what to do on those. In something like the white screen back there, or these little screens right here, they tell me what to do. That glass in that white screen was, I'll say, cut like that. Cut means euphemistically broken like that. It's from sheet glass from Fremont Antique. Best sheet glass in America is made 2 miles away over here at Fremont Antique by Jim Flanagan. I go to his factory and he blows those bubbles and turns them into sheets, and they were cut, they were just broken like that, laying around. I buy them, take them home, play around with them, and the glass tells me what to do. So there's a certain number, obviously, there's a cutoff of old Spectrum. Back in the day when probably Charlie worked for Spectrum. So that's, yeah, they didn't even square their sheets off, the 2x4 sheets, so you get that wiggly line where it was coming right out of the giant vat. So the glass tells me what to do. Lastly, Jeffrey, who used to work here, we know that it's an investment to buy a screen. They're sort of big objects, and so he said, why don't you try doing little screens? Not screens, little windows. Just do something little. Maybe people will buy the little stuff if they're not buying the big stuff. And so I resisted that because screens are like a novel for me, so you have a chance to really get going. Whereas that's like saying, don't write novels, write a paragraph or write a short story. And so it took a while to pivot. But once I did, you got into it. And I was mostly also trying to satisfy my partner, because Lynn kept saying, when are you going to start those little windows? When are you going to start those little windows? Well, finally, I started the little windows. And you sort of get into it, you move slowly, and they don't have to be rectangular, since they're not in a frame meant to be framed in. You can have any shape you want. It only took me a while to figure that out. And so I started again using the glass. If the glass had that shape, I didn't cut it to square it, I just left it and let it among. Okay, that's it. Thank you for coming, you guys.